What's going on, guys? DigiEdits here, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be explaining my take on the elusive FNaF 4. Whether the FNaF 4 animatronics are an illusion, are they a dream, or are they part of the crying child's coma, which will be explained here in this video. Now, FNaF 4 is a difficult topic to talk about, which is why it's so diverse on what it is. Mr. Spring said the same thing in their take on Nightmarionne, which gave me the idea to do him one better and solve the FNaF 4 mystery once and for all. I will put a video link on the Nightmarionne theory they made in the description because I'll be bringing up a few things about their theory a lot. But without no further ado, let's get right into this. To start things off, I'll do a quick recap. So basically, FNaF 4 is about a child that everyone theorized was named Evan, and that's what I'm going to be calling him for the entire theory of this video. So basically, Evan in game is terrorized in his own home by the things he feared the most, the animatronics. Each night, you, the player, must survive each night against these terrors, and after each night, we get a mini game of the crying child up to his death. So people are very split on what the Nightmare animatronics are because of this. Some say the Nightmare animatronics are just illusions from either a gas leakage like the Phantoms, others say that they are illusions made by a disc mentioned in the Twist Ones book, which was also designed by William Afton, just to scare him away from the animatronics to prevent what happened to Elizabeth. And then there are theories that the events of FNaF 4 takes place in Evan's coma after the bite. And if I had a take on this, I believe the coma theory is true. Sort of. I believe that the nights correlate to the minigames like nights 6 and 7 occurred during Evan's coma, which can explain why we see the hospital equipment near the bed during certain nights. If you made a pattern between each night and the minigames, you see that nights 6 and 7 take place after the final minigame, conveniently having Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear as the main bad guy for those nights because Fredbear was the last thing Evan saw before his death. It was made clear that Evan was scared of the animatronics, but not the characters, and it was theorized that the reason behind Fredbear's mouth stomach was because he witnessed Elizabeth getting eaten by Baby. Quote unquote, getting eaten by Baby. But what if the reason as to why Evan depicts Fredbear to have a mouth stomach is because he felt as if Fredbear ate him in the real world? But what about Nightmare? Well, if you saw Mr. Spring's video about Nightmarionne's existence, he stated that Nightmarionne was potentially William Afton's Grim Reaper, which is why we see him in Ultimate Custom Night, FNaF VR, and even have his face painted on the staff bots in Security Breach. So what if Nightmare was Evan's Grim Reaper, and by the end of the night, his life ended as well? Now, I could just say that being a dream is the reason behind their existence in Ultimate Custom Night, but I want to go further. I believe they were made from agony. Agony in the FNaFverse is described to be some sort of negative power source that comes off of the spirits with some kind of intelligence that creates physical movement. It's believed that the toy animatronics run on agony and not spirits. So what if agony doesn't just affect things in the real world? What if it can affect things in the fake world too? We know that William had killed kids for his immortality experiments with the sister location animatronics. He wanted to know how they worked, how they can move through souls and spirits of people. But what if the agony that came from those animatronics went straight to Evan's consciousness? What if the sister location animatronics created the nightmares through their agony? After all, it is possible that he was there when Elizabeth got scooped by Baby, and maybe the agony from the other animatronics created the nightmares. The agony might have gone to Evan after the incident because he was related to William Afton, and they wanted to get to him for what they did. That could also explain why they can and want to kill Evan in his dreams, much like Freddy Krueger would in Nightmare on Elm Street. The agony is so strong that it can affect what happens in the real world through Evan's mind. Now with the main 6 out of the way, let's talk about the Halloween DLC in FNaF 4. During Halloween, FNaF 4 received a Halloween DLC, replacing the Nightmare animatronics with Nightmare BB, Nightmarionne, Nightmare Mangle, Jacko Chica, and Jacko Bonnie. Scott had said that they are not canon, but here we are seeing the majority of these guys in Ultimate Custom Night, in Magically Insecurity Breach, and FNaF VR. I believe I might have solved that mystery and the reasoning behind the Night Terrors in FNaF VR. As we know, not only Nightmarionne was seen in Night Terrors, but also Nightmare Fredbear and BB. Now that could be impossible for them to show up there because they don't physically exist, so people believe that they were made by the indie game developer without actual knowledge of his existence. But I find that hard to believe because of how spot on both the characters are. My take is that my agony theory correlated to the glitch trap's existence. Glitch trap existed through a virus placed into the game with Afton's spirit. So what if, after Evan's death, the agony moved on and planted itself in the game? What if Night Terrors was never supposed to exist in the first place, and it was made so Nightmarionne and Nightmare Fredbear could continue to hunt down Afton? It is even made clear that they had a grudge against Afton in Ultimate Custom Night.
This time, death cannot save you. We know who our friends are, and you are not one of them.
They only existed through agony, and the memories from Evan's dreams remained to bring life to the Night Terror animatronics in VR. Then another idea came to mind. What if Afton witnessed Evan's death, and that agony passed on to him? Maybe when Nightmare Fredbear mentioned that there was more of an illusion to fear, he wasn't talking about in Evan's mind. He was talking about William's mind. Maybe Nightmarionne created the nightmares just like Charlie did with the real animatronics. And because the nightmares were in William's mind, they were moved into the VR game. Night Terrors wasn't made by the game developer. It was made by the nightmares. So they can continue to follow William everywhere he goes, to continue to torment. And we know afterwards that William gets into Vanessa's mind and takes over her body. But since Nightmarionne was in William's mind, Nightmarionne followed to keep the nightmares going, even beyond death. Although it became clear that William didn't care anymore because Vanny started to paint his face on all the stat bots she controlled, to show that he was the one pulling the puppet strings, and not him. But now with all that out of the way, we have one final question. Is the FNaF 4 DLC canon? Well, I think yes, and here's why. In Ultimate Custom Night, we see Jacko Chica on the roster. If she wasn't canon, how does she play a role in the FNaF 4 game if Nightmare Chica takes her place? Well, what if Night Terrors was a recreation of the stuff we haven't seen in FNaF 4 by itself? I believe that the DLC are dreams that came way before or in the middle of the actual FNaF 4 games. Maybe as the reason to why we see Baby and Funtime Freddy in Night Terrors is because of Evan's presence in Circus Baby's Pizza World. Perhaps Baby and Funtime Freddy were also part of Evan's nightmares during the moment. That would mean that Elizabeth died somewhere around October, considering the DLC was a Halloween event. Perhaps Nightmare Mangle was Evan's idea of Funtime Foxy, since regular Mangle didn't exist at the time. So the only reason I can think of as to why Night Terrors was in FNaF VR instead of FNaF 4 is because it was a recap or representation of Evan's past dreams before the nightmares. So my idea is that the FNaF 4 animatronics were not the first nightmares Evan had. The first nightmare appearance the agony went for was Circus Baby and Funtime Freddy, because those were the only animatronics Evan saw before Elizabeth met her demise. But as the agony followed Evan's journey outside of Circus Baby's Pizza World, it started to learn more about what Evan was scared of, and it adapted. Instead of seeing Baby and Funtime Freddy, he saw the nightmares. The agony that created Evan's nightmares since the death of Elizabeth became Nightmarionne. So tell me what you guys think in the comments, whether you agree, disagree, or you just want to say hi, and maybe even have a theory of your own you want me to check out, because like Mr. Spring said, Nightmarionne isn't talked about a lot. Actually, the entirety of FNaF 4 isn't talked about a lot, so I thought making this video could probably untangle the lore of FNaF 4 to where it's understandable. By the way, as I'm recording this video, MatPat did make a theory about the timeline of FNaF, and this theory I made is kind of a little mixed up, because he did state some valid points that maybe Circus Baby's Pizza World came after FNaF 1. But at the same time, if that's the case, then Puppet was around, and maybe Evan did see the security puppet, which is why Nightmarionne is there. And I also had a theory on Music Man that no one noticed, so I might do a video on that as well. But with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.